This lesson is on the difference between quantitative and qualitative graph. Quantitative is when we're looking at numbers and we describe it involving numbers, looking at data and we describe it involving numbers. Qualitative is when we describe the quality of something or how it is. In math, the main difference with a qualitative graph is that a qualitative graph has no numbers. So we're not graphing it based on numbers, we're just graphing it based on what's being said and what's happening in the story. So Aaron left the mall, drove towards the shop, got gas, and then continued driving to the shop. G is the amount of gas in the tank, and T is the time he left, minutes after he left the mall. Sketch a graph that shows the relationship between G and T. If we notice, there's no numbers in our graph. So we can have multiple different answers, but they should look very similar. I'm going to say he starts around here with half a tank. If he's driving towards the shop, that means he's using gas, so his gas is decreasing over time. He stops to get gas, so as time increases, his gas is also increasing. And then he continued driving to the shop, so his gas is going to have to decrease. And then our graph would stop there because we don't know what happened after that. When a new laptop became available in a store, the number sold in the first 2 weeks was high. Sales decreased over the next 2 weeks and then remained steady for the next week. The following week, the total number sold by the store increased slightly. Sketch the graph. So again, even though it says 6 weeks, we're not going to use numbers in our graph. So the numbers sold in the first 2 weeks was high. So we're just going to start with the remaining constant, remaining high. Then they decreased over the next 2 weeks. Now, even though we're not using numbers, we want it to be similar. So this first part represents 2 weeks. So we want the next part of it decreasing to be about the same length. Then it remains steady over the next week, so that should be about half as long. And then it increased slightly, so just a slight little increase. And again, if your numbers are a little off, if you started your graph higher or lower, it would still be the same thing. The graph below displays the distance from Lewis's house as he walks his dog in the neighborhood. Describe what is happening in each section of the graph over time. So to start, we notice his graph is at the origin, so his distance from home is 0 and his time is 0. So he starts by walking away from his home. So away from his home. We know this because the graph is increasing, so his distance from home is increasing. The next part is that his distance from home stays the same. So we could say he stops to take a rest. He stops moving. Then he continues to walk farther away from home. And then the last part he ends, and now his graph is decreasing. So that means he walks back home because he's ending his walk with his dog.